Welcome to Unhurried Minds, a quiet space for gentle stories, slow knowledge, and deeply calming narration. Here, we take our time. We breathe a little slower, and we let the mind settle, soften, and wander. Tonight, we'll explore a soft journey through ancient night rituals, ways in which people across thousands of years prepared their minds and bodies for darkness, rest, and dreams. We will move through these ideas slowly, like a lantern glowing in the dark. If sleep arrives along the way, you are welcome to follow it. Take a slow breath and let the day begin to loosen its hold on you. You've arrived at a quiet moment, a soft threshold between what has already happened and what the coming hours will bring. For now, you are simply here, resting, listening, letting your mind ease into a gentler rhythm. Tonight, we will wander through ancient worlds, not in haste and not as historians racing to gather information, but in the way a traveler walks a quiet path at dusk, unhurried, curious, and softened by the dimming light. For as long as human beings have existed, night has been more than the absence of daylight. It has been a space of mystery, of reflection, a time shaped by ritual, intention, and the desire for peace. Long before electricity softened the edges of darkness, long before clocks divided the hours into precise fragments, night felt expansive, alive, and deeply symbolic. It was a moment when daily labor ended, when the world around us grew quieter, and when the mind, finally, could begin its slow descent into rest. Tonight, we will step back into that world. We will walk gently through the rituals ancient peoples created to greet the night, honor its rhythms, and prepare their bodies and spirits for sleep. These rituals were quiet, intimate, and often beautifully simple. They were shaped by candlelight, warm oils, whispered stories, and the soft glow of stars. As we explore them, allow yourself to drift, letting the images settle lightly in your imagination. You do not need to concentrate. You do not need to remember anything. Simply follow the gentle flow of the narrative and let it guide you deeper into rest. The meaning of night in ancient worlds. To understand night rituals, we must first understand how different the world once was. For ancient peoples, night was not a backdrop. It was an event, a transformation of the landscape and of the mind. When the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows lengthened, colors cooled, and the familiar world softened into silhouettes. In many cultures, this transition marked a boundary between the public and the private, between the external and the internal, between action and reflection. Without artificial light, darkness settled deeply. It slowed movement, invited stillness, and created space for introspection. Night was a teacher, a guardian, a reminder of the cyclical nature of life. Anthropologists often note that ancient cultures viewed night as a living presence, not something to be conquered, but something to be respected and accompanied. Some saw it as a veil thin and permeable through which stories, dreams, and ancestral voices could drift. Others saw it as a time of restoration. When plants rested, animals grew silent, and humans returned to their inner worlds. Across continents, languages, and belief systems, night held a quiet authority. It asked people to slow down, to prepare, to release the day, to protect what mattered, to let go. And so, communities created rituals, small, intentional acts, that helped ease the transition into darkness. These rituals served many purposes. Comfort after a day of labor, protection from what could not be seen, connection with family and community, calming the body before sleep, opening the mind toward dreams, honoring the sacredness of resting hours. They were not elaborate. Often, they required nothing more than a flame, a story, a gesture, or a scent. What made them powerful was not their complexity, but their repetition, their slowness, their presence. As you listen, you may notice echoes of your own routines, simple things humans still do. to prepare the mind and body for rest. This is because across thousands of years, our nervous systems have changed very little. We still find comfort in soft light, in gentle sounds, in steady rhythms, and in the reassurance of familiar rituals, performed at the same quiet moment each night. Tonight's journey is not just about understanding the past, it's about rediscovering the timeless human desire to greet the night with intention and to enter sleep with a sense of peace, the landscape of the ancient night. To imagine these rituals, let's first imagine the setting. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an ancient settlement, just as the sun sinks below the horizon. The sky shifts slowly, from gold to rose to deepening blue. A cool wind moves through the grass, with a soft, steady breath. In the distance, a few scattered lights glow. Oil lamps flickering inside clay houses, fires burning low in communal hearths. The land feels still. The noises of the day fade. Even the animals seem to pause, attuned to the approach of darkness. Inside homes, people begin small preparations, closing shutters, sweeping floors clean, tending the last embers of a fire, and gathering children close. Everything is slower, quieter, more deliberate. It is in this softened environment that night rituals come alive. No rush, no urgency, only the steady unfolding of small actions that signal the mind to let go, the role of light in shaping night rituals. Before we explore the first major ritual, the lighting of ancient lamps, let's reflect on why light mattered so deeply. In a world without electricity, darkness was immense. It surrounded everything as soon as the sun disappeared. Light, even in its smallest form, became precious. A single flame had the power to transform a room, to shape emotional tone, to create a sense of safety, and to guide the body gently toward rest. Soft light tells the nervous system you are safe enough to relax. And so, across ancient civilizations, the simple act of lighting a lamp became a nightly ritual of calm, a cue that the day was ending, and that sleep was on its way. In the next part of our journey, we will explore these early lamps, their glow, their meaning, and the quiet comfort they brought to the night. But for now, take another slow breath and let your shoulders loosen. Just a little more. We are moving deeper into the ancient night, step by soft step. Before we go further into the night, let us return to the quiet glow that has guided humanity for thousands of years. The simple, steady flame of an ancient lamp. Imagine darkness settling across the land. Not a thin darkness, softened by the glow of cities and streets, but a deep, enveloping quiet. The kind of darkness that humbles the senses and invites the body to grow still. For ancient households, this darkness was familiar. It was not feared as much as it was respected. And into this vast quiet, people placed a small light, a lamp, a lantern, a modest flame, to mark the boundary between the waking world and the slow descent into sleep. Tonight we'll explore how these lamps were made, how they were lit, and how their glow shaped the rituals of evening. Take a slow breath as we begin. Let the warmth of this imagined flame soften your thoughts and ease the space around you. The first lamps, clay, oil, and quiet craftsmanship, the earliest lamps used by human beings, were simple creations of clay or carved stone. Their purpose was not grand. They did not need to dazzle or impress. They only needed to hold light, gently, reliably, through the hours of the night. A small indentation formed a basin. In it, people placed oil. Olive oil in the Mediterranean, sesame oil in parts of Asia, animal fats in colder climates. A wick rested inside, often made from twisted fibers, plant stalks, or strips of cloth, worn soft by many years of handling. When lit, the flame burned with a slow, steady patience. It flickered gently, not sharp or bright, but warm dash, like a heartbeat rendered into light. This simple flame became the foundation of countless rituals that soothed ancient households. Before bed, lighting the lamp, a ritual of transition. In many homes, the lighting of the evening lamp was the moment that signaled the true beginning of night. It was more than a practical action. It was symbolic a gesture that said, the day is over and now we enter the time of rest. In some cultures, the lighting of the lamp was greeted with a blessing. In others, it marked the time when stories began. In still others, it was a quiet moment, performed with intention and without words. Imagine the scene. A clay lamp rests on a low table. The room is dim, shadows long. Someone leans forward, strikes a spark, and the wick catches. A soft flame grows, warming the air with a golden glow. The corners of the room soften. Faces become gentler, bathed in warm light. The day feels more distant. The mind drifts closer to sleep. The lamp's gentle flicker regulated the emotional rhythm of the night. It set the tone, calm, warm, unhurried. This nightly act helped shift the nervous system into rest, just as dimming lights does for us today. The emotional power of small light. Psychologists now understand what ancient people felt intuitively. Soft, warm light reduces mental alertness and increases feelings of comfort and safety. Bright or cold light stimulates wakefulness, but the glow of a small flame, its gentle movement, its natural warmth, tells the body that it is time to soften. Ancient families gathered around such flames, not only for practical lighting, but because the flame itself evoked a sense of belonging, protection, and shared quiet. Light brought people together at the threshold of night, and this gathering became the heart of evening rituals. Lamp placement, creating a circle of calm. Where the lamp was placed also shaped the ritual. A lamp on a windowsill signaled openness, a light shared with the night. A lamp near the doorway offered protection, a symbolic guard against wandering spirits. Or misfortune, a lamp beside the bed provided comfort, its glow easing the transition into sleep. Communal areas often used larger lamps or small fires where families would sit, share stories, or simply rest together in silence. Wherever the light was placed, it carved out a space of calm. Within the greater stillness of the dark, your mind may picture this now. A quiet room, a warm flame, soft shadows stretching like gentle brush strokes along the walls. This is the emotional landscape in which ancient night rituals emerged. Caring for the flame, a quiet responsibility. Tending a lamp was a nightly task, but also a soothing one. The wick needed trimming, so the flame would burn evenly. Oil needed to be replenished. Ashes cleared, clay cleaned. These small tasks were more than maintenance. They were acts of care, slow, steady, grounding. They signaled attention, presence, and respect for the coming night. The simple rhythm of these actions helped quiet the mind. They required just enough focus to anchor wandering thoughts, yet not so much that they stirred attention fully awake. Even today, repetitive, gentle tasks, like folding laundry, washing dishes, or preparing a warm drink, help the mind transition into rest. The ancients understood this long before the science existed. The light that fades, a symbolic descent into sleep. In many places, the lamp was allowed to burn until its flame shrank and finally went out. Watching a flame fade was itself a ritual, a quiet surrender of the day. As the light dimmed, the room grew softer, shadows blending, edges dissolving into darkness. The mind followed this dimming, slowing, gradually releasing the final bits of tension. Some cultures whispered a final blessing as the flame died. Others simply sat with it, letting the moment pass naturally. There is something deeply calming in witnessing a light diminish slowly. It mirrors the gentle fading of consciousness as the body prepares for sleep. And so the lamp, which marked the beginning of night, also marked the transition into dreams. In the next part of our journey, we will explore another set of ancient rituals, the art of cleansing and purification before bed, a universal practice that soothed the body, calmed the mind, and prepared entire communities for rest. Before sleep, ancient peoples often tended to the body, not out of vanity, but as a quiet act of restoration, a way to signal to themselves, the day is done. I have cared for my work, and now I will care for myself. Across continents and centuries, cultures developed gentle rhythmic rituals that used warm water, scented oils, herbs, or smoke to ease the body into rest. As we explore these rituals, let your breath slow. Just a little more. Imagine the warmth of water, the softness of fragrant oils, the quiet intimacy of tending to one's own well-being in the glow of evening light. Cleansing as transition. In ancient Egypt, people washed before bed to remove the dust and heat of the day. They used cool water, sometimes infused with lotus, mint, or myrrh. The fragrance was light, barely there, but enough to shift the mind from activity to stillness. In Greece, warm water was poured slowly over the skin from simple clay vessels. The temperature mattered. Not hot enough to stimulate, not cold enough to awaken. Just warm, gentle, like a soft hand placed on the shoulder. Throughout ancient China, steamed herbs played an important role. Mugwort, chrysanthemum, ginger, and lavender released their fragrance into the air as people prepared for sleep. There was belief, both spiritual and practical, that these scents calmed the breath, eased tension, and cleansed lingering worries. And among countless indigenous communities, smoke cleansing whether with sage, cedar, sweetgrass, or other sacred plants, served to clear the mind, honor the ancestors, and create a safe space for rest. Different lands, different materials, and different beliefs, yet the same human longing to wash away the weight of the day. The psychology of purification. Today we understand why these rituals were so effective. Warm water relaxes muscles. Slow movements moderate stress hormones. Familiar scents cue the brain. That rest is approaching. But for ancient people, the meaning ran deeper. Cleansing the body was cleansing the spirit. Releasing tension was releasing the residue of the day. As the water flowed, or the fragrance rose into the air, people imagined their worries leaving with it. Psychologists now call this symbolic release, the mind's ability to let go through a physical gesture. But the ancients did not need the term. They felt it instinctively. A small act performed slowly with presence could create profound calm. Oils and the art of touch. Another widespread ritual was the use of oils on the skin. Olive oil, sesame oil, almond oil, or infused herbal oils were warmed between the hands and smoothed gently along the arms, the face, or the soles of the feet. The warmth was soothing. The fragrances, light floral notes, the earthiness of herbs, or the sweetness of resins offered grounding comfort. But the true power lay in touch. Slow, rhythmic touch signals the parasympathetic nervous system, the system of rest, digestion, and deep recovery. Even a few moments of this soft, repetitive motion could quiet the breath, slow the heart rate, and prepare the mind for dreams. In India, this practice was integrated into Ayurvedic nighttime routines. A small amount of warm oil was massaged into the scalp or temples to soften thoughts and ease mental agitation. In Japan, combing the hair before sleep was not simply grooming, but a calming ritual, a way to comb out the mental knots of the day. Across the world, touch became a bridge between wakefulness and rest, herbal baths and nighttime soaking Some cultures used more elaborate bathing rituals. In ancient Rome, late evening baths were common, for those who could afford them. But unlike the energetic baths of the afternoon, night baths were quieter, longer, and far more reflective. People sat in warm water until their thoughts softened and their limbs grew heavy. In parts of East Asia, soaking baths infused with herbs served both medicinal and spiritual roles. The steam, the warmth, and the scent created a cocoon of calm, de-stressing, detoxifying, preparing the mind for gentle dreams. These practices persisted because they worked. They eased both the physical body and the emotional weight, gathered through the day, smoke and scent in the sleeping space. Many ancient households used gentle fragrances in the air to prepare the room for sleep. Resins like frankincense, copal, and amber were burned in small quantities to purify and soften the atmosphere. Herbal bundles were hung near resting places, lavender, rosemary, cedar, or wildflowers, whose scents brought peace and a sense of safety. Some cultures placed fragrant leaves under pillows or sleeping mats. Others placed small bowls of aromatic oils nearby. These scents were not overpowering. They were subtle, just enough to calm the breath, to soften the air, to mark the room as a place of rest. Today we understand that scent is directly tied to memory and emotion. A familiar, calming fragrance tells the brain, you have been here before, you are safe, you may rest. The ancients used this power intuitively long before science could explain it, the ritual of letting go. As these cleansing rituals ended, the day felt more distant. The body was warm, the skin was soft, the breath slowed, the mind loosened its tight hold on tasks and thoughts. This transition from the weight of the day into the softness of night was the true purpose of purification rituals. Not to impress the gods, not to follow rigid rules, but to create a space where rest could arrive gently. In the next part of our journey, we will move from the body to the voice, to the songs, chants, and whispered prayers that filled ancient evenings, with rhythm, guidance, and quiet connection. As the body grew warm from cleansing and the soft glow of lamps filled the home, another ritual often stirred gently through the air, the ritual of sound. Before sleep, people across ancient worlds sang quietly, chanted softly, prayed in near whispers, or spoke rhythmic words that soothed the mind and brought families closer together. These were not performances, they were not meant to impress. They were moments of closeness, of reassurance, of guiding the mind toward rest. Tonight, we will drift through these sounds that traveled from voice to voice, from generation to generation, until they became part of what it means to settle into night. Take a slow breath and imagine the soft hum of voices in a quiet room lit only by a single flame. Lullabies, the oldest night songs, some of humanity's earliest music, was created not for celebration or ceremony, but for sleep. A parent's voice, low and gentle, carrying a simple melody. This was the first sound many children heard as they drifted into dreams. Lullabies existed in every culture. In Mesopotamia, women sang slow, minor melodies that moved like waves, steady, repetitive, comforting. In ancient Egypt, lullabies asked protective deities to watch over the sleeping child. The rhythm was soft, the tone warm, as if calling safety into the room. Across Europe, songs like rockabye and countless regional variations were once sung in hearth-lit homes long before they were written down. And among indigenous communities worldwide, lullabies blended breathy melodies with stories of animals, ancestors, and natural cycles. The purpose was the same everywhere: to wrap the night in gentleness, to slow the heartbeat, and to create a circle of calm around those who slept. Even adults found comfort in the quiet singing of others, proof that the human nervous system responds to softness, to melody, to the reassurance of another's steady voice. Chants and repeated phrases. Beyond lullabies, many cultures used repeated phrases as a form of nighttime soothing. A chant does not require a powerful voice. It only needs rhythm, a steady cadence that mirrors the slowing breath. Some chants were spiritual, others were practical, some were simply habitual, murmured without much thought, yet carrying deep, calming power. In India, quiet Sanskrit mantras were spoken before sleep, each one carrying layered meaning and centuries of tradition. In parts of Africa, the night chants called on ancestors to watch over the sleeping village. The voices were low, unhurried, often blending with the sound of wind moving through the trees. In Japan, soft Buddhist chants helped ease restless thoughts, turning attention away from the anxieties of the day and toward a sense of inward stillness. The beauty of chants was not their complexity, but their simplicity. Repeating words softly gives the mind something to rest on, a gentle anchor that quiets wandering thoughts, evening prayers, and whispered blessings. In many ancient homes, nighttime prayers formed one of the final rituals before sleep. These prayers were not always formal. Often they were spoken quietly, while extinguishing a lamp, covering a sleeping child, or closing the home for the night. A whisper, a few words of gratitude, a hope for safety through the hours of darkness. In the Middle East, prayers were offered to welcome the night and entrust the household to divine protection. In early Christian and Jewish traditions, evening prayers marked a shift, a turning inward toward humility, reflection, and rest. In many indigenous cultures, night blessings were spoken, not only for people, but for the land, the animals, and the spirits believed to dwell in the unseen world. Some families prayed aloud, others prayed silently. But the effect was similar, a sense of closure, of release, of situating oneself gently within the vastness of night. Prayer, in its simplest form, is a moment of stillness, a moment of attending to what matters most, a moment where the mind lets go, the softening power of rhythm. Why were these nighttime sounds so effective? Modern research shows that slow, predictable rhythm reduces activity in brain regions linked to alertness and planning. Rhythm quiets the mind. A soft melody slows the breath. A repetitive chant calms the heart. A whispered blessing soothes emotional tension. Ancient peoples did not have neuroscience, yet their rituals aligned perfectly with what we now understand about the physiology of rest. A steady voice is one of the most powerful cues for the body to relax. And when that voice comes from someone familiar, a parent, a partner, a member of one's community, the effect is even deeper. Sound connects, sound reassures, sound signals safety, and safety is the doorway to sleep. Communal quiet. In many cultures, even after singing or chanting ended, families remained together in silence. No pressure to speak, no need to fill the air, just quiet presence. People leaned against one another, stirred the last embers of the fire, or prepared their mats or blankets. With slow, thoughtful movements, the mind rests differently. When surrounded by quiet companionship, it is easier to let go, easier to drift, easier to surrender to sleep. Communal silence was its own kind of ritual, a shared descent into the softness of night. In the next part of our journey, we will explore another universal ritual, the telling of stories, and the ancient practice of watching the night sky. Two traditions that wove imagination into the fabric of evening rest. As the night deepened, and the soft sounds of singing and prayer faded into a warm hush, another ancient ritual slowly emerged, one that carried people across landscapes through memory and into imagination. Storytelling, long before books existed, long before stories were recorded in writing, human beings shared the events of their lives, the lessons of their ancestors, and the mysteries of the world through the gentle art of spoken word. And night was the natural time for stories. The light of day belonged to work, to travel, to the fullness of activity. But night belonged to reflection, to quiet conversation, to myth and memory, to the soft unfolding of narrative. Tonight, let us return to these ancient evenings. Let yourself drift into a room lit by a single lamp or fire, where voices soften and stories weave their way gently through the darkness. The hearth, the original stage. Across countless cultures, storytelling happened around a central flame. A hearth, a communal fire, a lamp that casts soft shadows on the walls. Firelight does something special to the mind. It moves slowly, flickering with a gentle unpredictability. That calms the senses and draws attention inward. People gathered around this glowing center, sitting close, resting their weight on mats, stools, or simply the earth beneath them. Children leaned against adults. Elders crossed their legs and closed their eyes. Everyone listened, not with urgency, but with a quiet openness. Stories did not rush. They meandered. They looped. They paused. They grew from whispers and often faded back into whispers. And this slowness mirrored the rhythm of rest. Stories as night protectors. At night, when shadows shifted and the world felt larger, stories served as gentle protectors. They explained the unknown. They offered comfort. They made the dark feel less lonely and more familiar. A child hearing a myth of a guiding ancestor felt surrounded by invisible support. A community hearing the story of a brave hunter felt courage fill the space around them. A family listening to tales of the moon or the spirits of the forest felt their imaginations wander in peaceful directions. Even today, many people fall asleep to the sound of a familiar narrator, not because the content demands attention, but because the presence of the voice creates a sense of safety. Ancient peoples understood this instinctively. A story told softly at night is a guardian of rest. The language of night stories. Nighttime stories often differed from stories told during the day. Daytime stories were sharper, more animated, more dramatic, but night stories were slower, simpler, filled with pauses. That created space for imagination to wander. Many cultures used gentle metaphors, the moon as a caretaker, the stars as distant fires, the wind as a messenger, carrying the voices of ancestors. The cadence was unhurried, the tone warm, the transitions smooth. These stories were not simply spoken, they were breathed into the room, like a soft wind moving through leaves, and the mind, hearing them, softened its edges and drifted gradually towards sleep. The power of shared memory. Storytelling also strengthened community bonds. It connected people to their history, their ancestors, and one another. A child listening to the same stories their grandparents once heard felt rooted, part of a lineage that stretched backward in time. Adults, hearing tales they knew by heart, found comfort in repetition. Elders who carried the stories felt honored as the keepers of memory. This shared ritual helped people transition from wakefulness into dreams that often continued. The themes of the stories themselves, stories became bridges from the conscious world into the symbolic world of sleep. After the story, silence. One of the most important parts of ancient storytelling was what came after the final word. Silence, but not a cold, empty silence. A warm one filled with the glow of the lamp, the soft breathing of loved ones, and the lingering images of the tale. The mind, held gently in this quiet, began its descent towards sleep. This silence was a ritual in its own right. A shared pause, a calm exhale, before slipping away to private dreams, watching the night sky. Another ritual deeply tied to storytelling was the ancient practice of observing the night sky. For thousands of years before cities brightened the horizon, the sky was a vast dark canvas filled with stars that shimmered like scattered embers. People stepped outside their homes that looked upward and felt the quiet presence of the universe. The stars offered guidance, orientation, and wonder. Constellations told stories of hunters, animals, heroes, and celestial journeys. The moon marked the passing of time, the changing of seasons, the rhythm of life itself. For many, looking at the sky was not a scientific act, but a spiritual one. It was a contemplation, a reminder of the smallness of one's worries, compared to the vastness of the night. In that stillness, with cool air brushing the skin, and stars glowing in the distance, people found peace. In the immensity above them, this kind of wonder is deeply soothing. It shifts attention away from the tight circle of personal concern and towards something more expansive, more timeless, and profoundly calming. Stars as sleep companions. Some people slept beneath the open sky. Others kept a small window unshuttered to let the moonlight in. Some believed that dreams traveled on beams of starlight. Even without such beliefs, the presence of the sky offered a sense of continuity, a reminder that every night, no matter how different the day had been, the stars returned in their familiar pattern. This predictability helped soothe ancient anxieties and preserved a sense of connection to the greater cycles of life. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the rituals of protection, the small symbolic acts that helped ancient families feel safe as they drifted into sleep, and the ways they prepared their sleeping spaces to welcome dreams with gentleness. As the final moments of evening approached and stories dissolved into quiet, ancient peoples often turned to one last set of rituals. Rituals of protection, comfort, and the careful preparation of the space where they would sleep. These acts were small, soft, often whispered or performed in near darkness. Yet they carried deep meaning, rooted in the universal human desire to feel safe enough to surrender to rest. Tonight, we will step slowly into these final rituals. Let your breath soften with each image. Let your mind drift into the gentle care with which ancient families welcomed sleep, the soft rituals of protection. Across cultures, the people once believed that night was a time when unseen forces moved more freely. Spirits, dreams, ancestors, and energies they could not fully name. To ease their minds, they created simple, symbolic gestures that marked the home as a place of safety. These gestures varied, yet shared the same purpose: to create peace within and around the sleeping space. Imagine a few of them now. A small charm hung near the doorway, its shape worn smooth by many years of touch. A line of ashes or chalk brushed lightly along the threshold to keep harmful spirits outside, and the warmth of the home inside. A sprig of lavender, rosemary, or cedar, placed beneath a pillow, its scent subtle but comforting, a whispered blessing spoken in darkness. Not loud, not formal, just a soft reminder that the night is a companion, not a threat. Some families placed a bowl of water near the entrance of the room, symbolizing purity and clarity. Others kept a single lamp burning low for part of the night, believing that even the smallest flame could guide wandering dreams toward gentler places. These rituals were not acts of fear. They were acts of reassurance, a way of saying, we have prepared, we have tended, we may rest now. And the body, hearing these cues, softened into stillness, preparing the sleeping space. After the protective rituals came a quieter task, one that was both practical and deeply soothing, preparing the place where the body would lay down to sleep. Across ancient worlds, sleeping spaces were arranged with intention and care. In some regions, mats were unrolled, slowly smoothing each fold, so the body could rest without tension. In others, woven blankets were shaken gently, their fibers releasing the heat of the day. As cool night air settled around them, families arranged pillows, made of straw, wool, cotton, or bundles of soft grasses. Some placed warm stones, wrapped in cloth near the feet, a quiet comfort against the cooling night. In colder climates, people layered furs, their textures thick and grounding, creating a cocoon of warmth. In warmer regions, light cloths were draped loosely to allow air to flow. Every movement was unhurried, every placement intentional. Even these simple actions calmed the nervous system. There is something soothing about creating order at the end of the day, about shaping a small sanctuary where the body can safely release itself into dreams, the family sleep ritual. Before everyone settled fully, families often shared a final moment together, a soft touch on the shoulder, a quiet goodnight, a whispered hope for pleasant dreams. Children curled close to parents or siblings, elders found their familiar corners of the room. The youngest often fell asleep, first lulled by the rhythmic breathing of those around them. The communal nature of sleep created a sense of belonging that lingered even in dreams. Imagine the room as it quiets, the lamp flickering softly, its flames small but steady. Breathing deepens, postures grow still. Shadows rest on the walls, motionless and patient. This shared descent into sleep was one of the most human moments of the day, a reminder that rest is not only physical but emotional and communal. The final light. In many households, one person, often the last awake, extinguished the final light. The gesture was delicate, almost ceremonial, a slow breath, a gentle pinch of the wick, or the soft placement of a cover to smother the flame. The room fell into darkness, deep and enveloping, but this darkness was not empty. It was warm, familiar, held gently by the memory of all the rituals that had come before. The mind felt ready, not abruptly, not forcefully, but naturally, to let go and drift. The psychology of night rituals. When we look at these ancient practices through the lens of modern psychology, we see something remarkable. All of these rituals, light, cleansing, singing, storytelling, protection, were beautifully aligned with what we now understand supports a healthy transition into sleep. Soft sensory cues signal safety. Repetitive actions calm the mind. Warmth, scent, and gentle touch relax the body. Shared presence reduces anxiety. Dimming light prepares the brain for rest. Even the simple act of preparing a sleeping space helps the mind shift from doing to being. Ancient peoples created these rituals without scientific knowledge, and yet their intuition was exquisitely tuned to the rhythms of physiology and emotion. Their wisdom persists in us. We still crave rituals. We still need slowness. We still seek the softening that comes with familiar gestures, performed at the same quiet moment each night. Closing, returning to your own night. As we step out of the ancient world and return to this moment, notice how your own breath has softened, how your shoulders have lowered, how your thoughts have slowed into a gentle drifting pace. Night rituals may look different today, but the human need they answer remains the same: to feel safe, to feel held, to feel gently welcomed into sleep. Take one more slow breath, deep but effortless, and allow the calm of these ancient practices to linger in your body. You may choose to let your eyes close now, or rest a little longer with the images. We've wandered through tonight. You are unhurried, you are safe, and the night, as always, is here to hold you. This has been Unhurried Minds. Gentle stories, slow knowledge, restful listening.